This is the Nissan Navara 4x4 VL. It sells for 1.45 million pesos, and I think that it's one of the best deals that they could get on a 4x4 truck. How does it compare to the competition? The Ford Ranger Wildtrak, the Strada GT, and the Hilux Conquest? Let's find out. This Navara right here is a 2019 model, but unlike other 2019 Navara models that you've probably seen, this one has been updated. I'll show you later what that update is. The VL was the top spec variant for the Navara. There are now two more expensive variants, the N-Warrior and the Sport Edition, but they're essentially Navara VLs with exterior upgrades. In terms of mechanical and electronic features, they're about the same. Unlike the Strada, which pushes the boundaries of pickup design with its futuristic styling, the Navara takes a more traditional approach. It looks more like a traditional pickup. It has a broad-looking front end with a V-motion grille at the center. It has projector LED headlamps with daytime running lights. It also has fog lamps. It is the same front end as the Nissan Terra. Like the Nissan Terra, it also has massive fender bulges. It has 18-inch wheels wrapped in 265 60 series tires. It's a pretty masculine looking truck. One thing that you may not be able to tell in photos is that the Navara is actually one of the smallest pickups in its class, at least among major Japanese and American manufacturers. In terms of size, the Ranger is the biggest, followed by the Hilux. The Strada and the Navara are about the same size, although the Strada is a bit longer. If you see the Ranger and the Navara side by side, the size difference is very noticeable. It is 99mm shorter and 373mm narrower than the Ranger. This particular display unit doesn't come with a bed liner, but according to the Nissan representative, that can be installed for free. Okay, I think the Navara is a pretty handsome looking truck. As far as looks go, my personal choice would be the Ranger. It is the biggest and the brawniest looking truck in the segment, but that's just me. The Navara shares the same dashboard with the Nissan Terra. It's a pretty simple design. It's not as intricately sculpted as the dashboards of the Hilux and the Strada. Also, even on the most expensive trim, the dashboard is made entirely of hard plastics. It's a utility vehicle, so I guess the use of plastics is forgivable. But it's also worth noting that the Ford Ranger Wildtrak has a leather-covered dashboard. The seats though, the door sidings, and the armrests are covered in leather. The steering wheel is leather covered, but it feels a bit thin and it's not very well padded. It doesn't feel as substantial as the steering wheel of the Strada and of the Ranger. The only difference between this updated 2019 model and the previous model is the infotainment screen, which is now a lot larger.
You also got a volume knob and a tuner knob. You have single zone climate control, 112 volt outlet over here, another one over here, You have one USB port over here and one aux jack. And you have another 12 volt out over here. Everything's made of clear plastic. Cup holder. Cup holder. Two cup holders over here. 4-wheel drive selector. You have a push start function.
One thing that I like about the Navara is that it has aircon vents for the rear passengers. The Ranger and the Hilux don't have aircon vents. The Strada does have roof-mounted vents, but they're just blowers. They don't actually cool the air. There is no center armrest for the rear passengers, but it does have cup holders, which are strangely floor-mounted. It's not where you'd usually expect to see cup holders, and it may make things a bit awkward if you have a third passenger in the back. The Navara is powered by a 2.5-liter turbo diesel engine, which produces 190 horsepower and 450 Newton meters of torque. It's coupled to a 7-speed automatic. It does about 7.2 kpl on the city and about 14.8 on the highway. Of course, your mileage will depend on your driving habits. It produces slightly more horsepower than the Strada, but less horsepower than the Wildtrak. The ride quality of the Navara is pretty good, and may even be the best in its class. The Ranger Raptor is the most comfortable pickup that I've driven so far, but that's a significantly more expensive vehicle. Like the Ranger Raptor, the Navara has coil springs at the back instead of leaf springs. Having a softer suspension in the back does have its drawbacks though. Its payload capacity is slightly less than the Wildtrak. The Ranger's payload capacity is 1,120 kilograms, while the Navara's capacity is 1,059. It's not that much of a difference though, so the trade-off might be worth it. Being smaller does have its advantages. It's easier to maneuver in tight spaces than the Ranger. The top-down camera also helps a lot. The Navara has a real-time shift 4-wheel drive system. You can shift from too high to 4 high and too low using this knob without having to come to a complete stop. The steering is still hydraulic, so it's a bit on the stiff side. The Ranger and the Strada have electronic steering. The Navara has plenty of electronic features. It has Nissan's intelligent mobility system. I'd put it somewhere in the middle of the pack as far as electronic gizmos are concerned. It doesn't have adaptive cruise control like the Ford Ranger and the Strada, but it has lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, and collision warning, all of which are also standard on the top-of-the-line Ranger and the Strada GT. Its standout feature is its top-down camera. It makes parking the vehicle and maneuvering in tight spaces so much easier. I'd rank the Strada a bit higher because it has adaptive cruise control, and I'd rank the Ranger at the top because it has everything, and on top of that it also has self-parking and active noise cancellation. When it comes to electronic features, the Hilux is at the bottom of the pack. It doesn't have basic cruise control, it doesn't have lane keep assist, it doesn't have blind spot monitoring, and it doesn't even have a backup camera. For a top-of-the-line 4x4 truck, the Hilux is pretty low-tech. The Navara VL 4x4 offers good looks and decent electronic features at a very good price. At 1,459,000 pesos, it is 211,000 pesos cheaper than the Strada, 236,000 pesos cheaper than the Wildtrak, and 323,000 pesos cheaper than the Hilux Conquest. As far as value for money is concerned, I think the Navara is hard to beat.